Now, your forecast first from KARK4, your weather authority.
We may have seen a lot of clouds today, but thanks to last night's cold front, no rainfall across Arkansas this afternoon. Not expecting any this evening either, but we are expecting a pretty strong storm system to head our way as we head toward the end of the work week on into tomorrow night. A flash flood watch issued by the National Weather Service for central and western Arkansas for Friday and Friday night. Several inches of rain possible. Some places could see in excess of 3 inches. We'll tell you where the heaviest rain is likely to fall. But your forecast first for Little Rock, we're looking for partly sunny to mostly cloudy skies as the sun goes down. Temperatures falling through the low 80s. And by tomorrow morning, a mostly cloudy start with a high of 67. KARK4 News at 6 starts now.
Now, from the station you count on for local news that matters. This is KARK4 News at 6.
An Arkansas elementary student held back a grade because of a learning disability. Good evening, I'm Mallory Brooks. Jessica and Bob have the evening off. The boy's mother says her son is being punished for having Asperger's syndrome. And KARK4's Jocelyn Tovar says the mother is in a constant battle to get her son the help he needs. Jocelyn.
Well, that's right, Mallory. He's a kindergartner at Spring Hill Elementary right outside of Hope, and he'll have to go through kindergarten again after his mother says she spent the last year trying to prove there was something wrong.
Come here, Colt.
6-year-old Colton Kidd, his mother's youngest, the baby of the family.
I love you.
Born with an extra Y chromosome, his mother knew school was going to be difficult.
Because he had some developmental delays, and I was afraid that he might have trouble in school because I knew that he had trouble with his speech.
Sure enough, Colton started falling behind. His mother says he was evaluated for special education, however did not meet the requirements.
He was so distressed and his self-esteem was low, and he would say, I can't do that, I'm not that smart.
So she took the situation into her own hands, taking him to a clinic in Texarkana where he was finally diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome and ADHD, two disabilities that make learning difficult.
When you have a school district and a system that really is not responsive to the parents' needs or the students' needs for that matter.
Colton's now being represented by the Disability Rights Center of Arkansas, whose executive director says the school's decision to hold Colton back from advancing to first grade is only punishing him.
They see everybody else advancing, but because the school did not, provide the services, they're being held back, and they're not going with their peers, and so it's a psychological effect on them.
They'll move on, and he won't.
His mother says, at least in their case, the setback will hopefully only cost them 1 year. But she wonders about the other students who may not be getting the proper attention for their needs and won't do well because of it.
What worries me more than anything is how many other children are like Colton and need extra resources and don't receive them.
Colton will now have to play catch-up, but hopefully won't get left behind again. Now, the experts at the Disability Resource Center tell me there's an easy solution for these students. All the school has to do is come up with an individualized education plan for them and see that they're meeting each mark along the way. And the superintendent tells me they simply have no comment. Mallory, back to you.
Jocelyn, thank you. A prosecuting attorney telling the parents of a Pine Bluff shooting victim he will not file charges against their daughter's killer. Prosecutor Kyle Hunter says the evidence against Ryan Bishop suggests he shot Tashara Bannister in self-defense last year in what police call a drug deal gone bad. Investigators say Bannister was selling cocaine to Bishop when she ordered him at gunpoint to drive to the ATM to get some cash. Police say Bishop grabbed for Bannister's weapon, and during a struggle, Bishop fired the gun 4 times, killing Bannister. Bishop admitted to the shooting but said it was in self-defense. 5-year-old Dyson Stewart back at home tonight doing what he loves, watching cartoons and playing video games. But just last night, for hours, he got lost in a wooded area that surrounds his home in Pulaski County. KARK4's Melissa Schroeder spoke to Dyson's dad about what happened. Melissa.
Well, Chris Stewart said he locked all the doors in the home. His son Dyson was downstairs watching TV. Chris and his wife went upstairs for just minutes, and when they returned, little Dyson was gone. He apparently crawled through a doggy door and got out of the house. Mom and Dad searched for him everywhere, but quickly realized they needed help and called 911. The rescue crews arrived at the home in the 33,000 block of Canis with a helicopter and dogs.
So they were actually very worried because there's a small pond up in the front. and there's a small pond there, and there's a third pond over there, and they were actually going to have 2 different dive teams come at first light and dive the ponds, because as the more amount of time went on, the more and more word we got.
Fortunately, it never came to that. And about 6 hours later, the boy was spotted on a ridge east of the house. He had some scrapes and scratches, but was otherwise okay. Since Dyson got out through the doggy door, his father has since bolted it down. And I asked the Pulaski County Sheriff's Department, should other parents be concerned about this issue, and was told just to be safe, it's best to get a doggy door that has certain security measures, certain security features, which would maybe help prevent situations like this. Back to you.
Melissa Schroeder, thank you. A Little Rock man recovering after being shot in the street. Officers were called to a home on West 22nd Street in Little Rock around 9 o'clock this morning. Investigators say the suspect, wearing all black, fired a round of shots at the victim. The man, whose name has not been released, suffered a gunshot wound to the leg. We are told his injuries are non-life-threatening. Right now, there's no motive in the shooting. Community health centers often the only medical care available in rural parts of Arkansas. Leaders of those centers today telling legislators they are concerned the plan to place uninsured Arkansans on private insurance could have harmful effects, including causing some rural health centers to close. But the Department of Human Services says it is working closely with Washington, D.C. to make sure that doesn't happen.
We've been very pleased by the discussion with the federal government. There are issues that come up, like with the community health centers, and we're just trying to work closely with them to make sure that people are treated fairly and everybody gets the coverage they need. So.
Uninsured Arkansans can begin signing up for health coverage on October 1st. A plant explosion shakes northwest Arkansas and evacuates several businesses. Luckily, no one was injured. Officials say a piece of equipment burst into flames inside a recycling plant in Lowell. KARK's Kyle Leinberger joins us live from the explosion site. And Kyle, what do we know right now?
Well, we know that actually the place caught fire. Crews actually left after they thought they had it under control, and within an hour and a half the fire had rekindled. So they came back out, and now their main concern is making sure that it doesn't rekindle again. The Lowell fire chief says the plastic material inside the silo actually spontaneously combusted about a month and a half ago. And since then, AERT has been working to find a way to safely remove the contents and disassemble the silo. But that obviously never happened. He says the crews have contained this fire, but they can't extinguish it. And now he wants the issue taken care of as soon as possible.
We will be here until they can assure us that their mitigation plan is in place and has begun, and that there is no threat to the adjacent structures.
Now again, he says the company plans to dismantle the structure tomorrow morning, and until then at least 2 firefighters will be here on scene to make sure that it doesn't rekindle. We actually tried to talk to AERT's president today repeatedly. He never returned our calls. I'm Kyle Lamberger, live.
Thank you so much, Kyle. We appreciate you. Little Rock has been named one of the best places to live by Kiplinger's Personal Finance. The magazine lists the city as #1 because of its scenic beauty, diverse community, and key employers. According to Kiplinger's, Little Rock has the amenities of a larger city, but it's small enough that residents feel part of the community. The city also offers good jobs, reasonably priced homes, and decent schools. 32 lofts on 4 floors. Construction is underway at K Lofts in the 300 block of Main Street. The project, one of the first targeted by the city to revitalize downtown Little Rock. KARK4's David Goins takes us on a tour and shows us how it's part of a bigger city vision.
Work is ongoing here at 315 Main. This building has been empty for over 30 years, but in a few months this will be 8 lofts right here on the 2nd floor. But as we see today, there's a whole lot more activity going on Main Street. And while the focus today is on K Lofts, which will be here at 315 Main and open in a few months, they say this all plays into the energy that's going on Main Street in Little Rock. Across the street, Man on Main, the gray building there, is those lofts. These are entirely rented, and the building off to the side here also has state agencies involved. Now, if you look down Main Street, they say the way Main Street looks now will be completely different than it may look in a couple of years, and that is what not only what the city wants, but realtors want. Scott Reed, who heads up the firm that is working on these new loft projects, told us today that this is part of what makes a downtown area the place to be.
You go visit your friends in Dallas or New Orleans, they got people everywhere. This is not new to them. So that gives me confidence that this can stick here. And then you really have a major investment by the city in the streetscape. It's not going to look anything like this.
And the goal is to have K-Lofts ready to move in by the end of the year and have one big important building on Main Street back open for people. In Little Rock, David Goins, KARK4 News.
David, thank you. Scott Reed with Reed Realty adds pre-leasing for the 32 units of K-Lofts starts in September. Well, $20,000 for a house sounds like a steal, right? Well, back in the 1880s, houses like this one were the most expensive on the market. How the Empress of Little Rock has become a landmark that you'll only see in Arkansas.
And other than mid and high level clouds across the state today, it wasn't too bad a late July afternoon. Comfortable humidity, temperatures well below average. 86 was all we were able to manage in Little Rock today. Our normal high for this time of year is 93. Something else was missing, the humidity, but it's on the way back, and so are rain chances as we head into the end of your work week. A flash flood watch is in effect. We'll have the details in just a couple minutes.